Okay, hello and welcome back to another episode of Spiritually Unfiltered.
hmm Today, we're gonna tell you girls to grab a cup of tea and sit down with us because we are gonna be spilling the tea on our dating life and our dating experiences, and of course, mix it in with a lot of spiritual wisdom and awareness in it as well. So, Abby and I both have tea with us today. It is morning for me, so I'm having my morning tea. Abby is having her evening tea. But let's get to talking. How are you, Abby? Before we jump into all of this, like dating experience stuff, is there anything going on in your life that you want to share?
Oh, there's so much going on. I feel like every week is just like abundant with new things happening. And, you know, dating wise, I have a date this weekend. So I'm pretty excited for this, and we're gonna talk about it a little bit more as we get into this episode. But what's fun is next week I'm gonna tell you what happened and how it was. But I'm quite excited about this date. But otherwise, I have been painting my apartment this week, and I am never gonna pick up a paintbrush ever again because I'm just like I was saying to Seema, I am just really I'm coming out of hyper independent Abby era. Like I'm stepping into receiving, letting people do things for me, letting myself accept help, and this was the last thing, I think. So,
Yeah. You know what it feels like? It feels like as we are talking so much about stepping into this new era of our own feminine, this like expanded version of it. Like this painting experience for you was actually an initiation for you to be like, wait a second. I don't like this anymore, and this doesn't respect or honor the type of woman that I want to be and how I want to feel. And it'll feel so much better for me if I just hire someone to do this for me so that I can receive versus me doing it myself. So it's just like sometimes these little things are honestly such initiations for us, and it's just literally everyday life that happens. But when we pay attention to it, we can really see how our intentions are literally being manifested through like everyday life experiences.
for sure. And I think this is like following on from last week's episode where we were saying, everything is an opportunity, but the everyday things are an opportunity as well. Like
Yeah.
how, when we think about what we're calling in into our lives. So, for example, we've made it clear this year is the year we're meeting our husbands. And, it's kind of like, me doing things like that, the reason that it's kind of frustrating me is because God wants me to be in receiving mode, you know? And so it's kind of like those little moments, they're those opportunities to almost like fine tune that conversation that you're having with the universe and to step deeper into calling in whatever that vision is,
Yeah.
But like you say, we always have to be open to hearing that and sort of almost like decoding it a little bit sometimes as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. It's like it's
Hmm.
happening in everyday life. We just like pay attention and you see how you're having, like you said, a conversation with a God and the universe every single day. And there's this interaction and it's speaking with you through life and through how you can interact with certain and like things that are going on in life to just continue to initiate you and have you become that person that you want to be to have whatever that outcome is that you want to have.
Exactly. And it was, because obviously it's took me a long time to do this painting of my bedroom. But then my bed was delivered a few days ago, like my new bed. And I was so happy because I'd paid for people to bring it into my apartment. I was like, it would be too hard for me to carry it all the way up, and so I'm just gonna do this. And literally, that was like that reflection for me. It was because I felt so good. I was like, yeah, like you don't need me to come down, just come on up and I'll let you in, you
Would
know?
you have in the past just ordered it to your place and not paid the extra for them to bring it up and then just like found a way to like get it upstairs yourself?
Probably. Like I've done that
Oh,
before, and so I don't know. Yeah. Like, but I was like, no, I'm not gonna cheap out on this. Like I'm gonna because in this apartment I don't have an elevator and I'm on the
Mm,
third floor. So it's like, you kind of have to plan these things a little bit better. Whereas before I had an elevator. So it was you could work around it. But here
right.
I'm like, I can't work around it. And you know what? I don't want to. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to do it myself. And these like strong man came up and brought my bed, and I was just like, and they just placed it exactly where I wanted it, and I was like, that's the vibe. That's what I
Yeah.
want.
You know what I'm also like realizing just in this, it's like this new place that you moved into, I think it feeling so perfect and you saying yes to it because it felt so aligned, like there's all these other little things with it that you didn't realize. Like it's actually a gift that it doesn't have an elevator because it encouraged you to move and make different decisions in how you move. You know, like the blessings
Yeah.
are everywhere. Like when we really look, they're
Yeah.
everywhere. And it supported you to step into this literally new era for yourself in something that little and that small of like, I'm not going to try to figure out how to bring it up on my own. I'm going to pay extra to receive because, like we always say, standards. That's my standard for life. This is how I want to feel in life. And how I feel in life is what I will attract in my life. And like, this is
Mhm.
the standard I'm setting for myself.
For sure. And I think what it's bringing me back to, something that we talk a lot about inside our group mentorship is when it comes to calling in what you want, it's not all about like the movement towards it and doing it and all of these things. It's the be, then you do, and then you have. And
Yeah.
so I think in these little moments, this is exactly where we're moving, where God is trying to push us into the frequency of what we're calling in, you know?
Mhm.
And so these little things that are happening, even though they seem just like mundane, like daily life, like insignificant, they're actually not because, like you said, they're pushing me to be more in that receivership, in that sort of receiving mode, more in my feminine. And I want to call in a masculine man, Like, so it's kind of like, and it's so funny when you decode it and you can hear the nuances. And so
Yeah.
yeah, we're always being pushed into that being, God is always going to push us into the frequency of being,
Hmm.
not just throwing something in our path, because that doesn't
Exactly.
stick then.
Exactly. The first step is always being, like you get to become, and there's so many things that are happening in your life to help you become that.
Mm-hmm.
It always works out that way.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so what about you? What is going on with you right now?
I am also becoming. You know,
Mm.
one of my biggest things that I've recognized on my journey, especially when we talk about like love and calling in a husband, is really like who I have been being in my life and how I've been treating myself and the type of people I've allowed to kind of be in my life and in my circle, because it really is, it changes how you feel about yourself, even if it's like, oh, well, I don't see this person that often, or I don't talk to them that often. Like, I've become very aware over the last few weeks of different types of people I keep in my life and how then I feel about myself in relationship to them. And that's become such a big, I don't know, there's been like such a flashlight on that for me. And you know, when you ask God, God, remove anyone who doesn't serve my highest good and remove anyone who isn't going to hold the space or be supportive of me evolving into that woman that you want me to be, it always happens. People start being removed from your life. And I had an experience the other day, which I won't talk too much of it about, but there was a lesson or there was an experience in there that I had that I thought was like very important to share with others, because this kind of like gaslighting that happens in this world of people who speak spiritually or who speak emotional intelligence, it's such a big thing. And I noticed with someone that I was just literally trying to have an honest conversation of what was coming up with me, and this is what I'm experiencing, like this is my experience. And they turned around and were like, how you feel about this is your problem, it's not me. And I'm like, but I was like, look, I'm not blaming you. I'm just explaining that when you act like this, I feel like this. She goes, well, that feeling's your problem.
Mhm.
And, it made me realize in the moment, and as the conversation continued, I was like, this is where people start using these personal development terms that they learn of like, your happiness is in your hands. It's not in my hands. How you perceive this situation is in your hands. It's not me. While all of those things, like, they are true, like someone else's happiness is in their hands. It's not in my hands. How you perceive a situation is in your hands. It's not in my hands. And also, I need to take accountability and I need to have the ability to take a look at myself and see in a situation if someone is saying you're acting like this and it like makes me feel this way, maybe I am acting in a way that isn't the kindest, that isn't right. Maybe there is something that I can reflect on within myself so that I can grow and evolve. And I feel like some people, they just, in order to not take any accountability, in order to not look at themselves, they just throw out these terms. Well, that's how you're perceiving it. That's not on me. And it's like, can you have the ability to reflect? So I think what I really want to like reflect to people here is pay attention. These people that talk about all these different spiritual terms or these emotionally intelligent terms, it's very easy to see if people are just using these words or if they're embodied in it.
Mhm.
Because when someone is just using the words and you're in a relationship with this person or trying to have a conversation with this person, you will literally feel gaslighted. You will feel like you'll almost feel like when you came to them to talk to them about this thing, all of a sudden you're wrong and now you have to apologize for how you were feeling because how you're feeling is wrong.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so it's a conversation that I've had with so many different people about them having these experiences. And I literally had the experience myself yesterday, and I'm just like, this is like this is not healthy. This is not good. And then you kind of like you pay attention to your body and how your body feels in that situation. And I left that conversation and like literally I was like, Abby, please, I need to talk to you. And I spoke to you right after, and like it's like I was shaking after that conversation, and I'm like,
Mhm.
that's not me. Like that's not my nervous system. And to like feel that shaken from a conversation like this, like my body is literally just telling me something.
Mhm.
And so it's just, I want people to have this awareness. And even for yourselves, like maybe you're the person unintentionally doing this to someone else. Like
Yeah.
we can, two things can be true at the same time. How someone perceives you is in their hands. And also, we get to take a look at ourselves and take a look at what that person is saying about us and kind
Right.
of reflect a little bit and be like, is there some truth in this? Could I maybe show up a little bit differently? Like, just take a look at it.
Mhm.
But don't just say, it's on you, it's not me. That's fucked up.
For sure. And you know something that is coming up as you're speaking about this? When it comes to the man that you're calling in, I know one of your non-negotiables is that you feel emotionally secure around,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally safe. You feel
Yeah.
safe. This man has the ability to hold your emotions, to hold space for you emotionally. That's like, I remember you asking me the question, what kind of safety is the most
Mm-hmm.
important to me? And emotional safety, it didn't actually like register for me, but for you, you were like, no, that is like number one for me. And what you can see happening here is you actually took a stand against someone who doesn't make you feel emotionally safe. And this is you, part of you setting your standards, because what we're going to talk about more in this episode is dating, but it's also like it's reflected in any kind of relationship you have.
Yeah.
We need
Yeah.
to make sure that our standards are across the board, not just when we're going out there dating, but in our family relationships and our friendships. Like, it's so important. And so it's almost like, if I'm talking about the ways that God is trying to pull my frequency up, God is showing you what is pulling your frequency down,
Yeah.
and it's all about God is constantly trying to bring you to that equilibrium, or that space, where that sweet spot where your vision finds you, meets you,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
I love this reflection because it's so true, and it's something that, like, as I sat with this, because I'm like, God, why did it go in this direction? Like, that
Hmm.
conversation just went down a completely different direction than what I thought it would go. And I realized it was like such an opportunity for me, because it's like, if one of my standards is emotional safety in a relationship, well, then I get to create safety for myself in the other relationships that I have. And so this was a moment for me, instead of saying, okay, well, like, you know how this person is, let me just put up with it. Like, it's fine, deal with it. You know that they're like this. So Seema, you just like change how you interact with them. It was a moment for me to be like, no, I'm actually not going to tolerate this anymore. And that was me creating safety for myself with my own body. Because I think if that's something that I crave so much, it
Hmm.
shows how I haven't had emotional safety in a
Hmm.
lot of my other relationships, and not romantic relationships, but like just other relationships in your life. And it was really, it's such an initiation for me to hold safety for myself and let my body know, like, you're safe with me before anyone else brings the safety in this space. Like, you are safe with me, and I've got you, and I will not allow anyone into our lives and into the space, our lives, as if I'm like more than one person, but I will not allow anyone into my life that doesn't create a loving, nurturing, and healthy space. Like, no, it's a no. And I noticed that my boundaries when it comes to emotional safety, I didn't have boundaries there. I was always taught to tolerate these things. And I'm really starting to realize, like, when you tolerate something, you're allowing it into your life. It's okay for you to say, I don't have tolerance for this. And so it was, honestly, it was like,
It's an
as
initiation.
yeah, as painful as like that situation was, it was also simultaneously beautiful and expansive. And I'm like, God, I see what you're doing. I see who you are shaping me into, because
Yep.
this is the woman that holds safety, that attracts a man that brings safety in as well.
Exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
I think when it comes to boundaries, they say that boundaries are how you teach others how to treat you.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think boundaries are also like you're signaling to the universe, you're letting the universe know, this is not a standard that I play with.
Mm-hmm.
This is below my standard. And the more that you practice those things, the more that you claim those things and actually take action on those things, the universe listens.
Yeah.
I constantly say, like, we see it's almost like when you think about Instagram and the algorithm, right? Like when you're scrolling on Instagram, if you can see, like, if you've interacted with a creator's reel or something, you will see another one, a few more
Yeah.
reels down the line, and it's because the algorithm is like, oh, you like that kind of content, so let me show more of that to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same relationship with the universe, but we can't see it as clearly as we can on our phone, But the universe is constantly, when you are saying, I don't like that, I don't accept that, the universe listens and
Yep.
hears you, and then can start to present you with the next level of whatever it is, right?
Yeah. I think a lot of us, and I know a lot of women are going to like resonate with this as they hear it, a lot of us that were brought up to be the people pleaser, we, as much as we have set boundaries in certain aspects of our lives, there are certain other aspects that we look at and we're like, I've unintentionally been being the people pleaser in this space to create harmony.
Yeah.
And so like it's really also like that people pleaser energy that you get out of, to set this new standard with the universe and for yourself of like, I'm not interacting with people that I just simply need to please in order for us to be able to have a type of relationship. Like, absolutely not. That's not what I'm working with here. And
Hmm.
as you set that standard, then it's like an algorithm. Then the universe starts sending you friends, associates, business partners, a romantic partner that all reflect that to you, because it is, I love this algorithm example that you use, because when you sit on a, last night I was actually going through Instagram Reels, and then this one popped up and it was beautiful, and it was like the sound of nature and stuff, and like what they had written on the reel was, Just watch this video 3 times to reset your algorithm so you get more clips like this. And it is
Mm.
because the longer you spend on a reel, that's how the algorithm is kind of tuning into what you like. And then it sends you more things like that, which is the same thing with our emotions. The longer we sit or hold an emotion, which is
Mm.
just a frequency, the universe then sends you more of that experience.
Totally. 100%. You know,
Hmm.
it's that saying what you focus on expands, you know? And
Exactly.
so if we are sitting in, for example, if we feel stuck in our life and we're focusing on that, I'm stuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck. You're gonna meet more boulders on your
Yeah,
path, and
absolutely.
and this is why we talk about so much when there is sort of like a challenge or something comes up, we have to look at it in a positive way. Like we have to
Mhm.
look at it, okay, what is this guiding me towards? Rather than like I choose to focus on the good of something because
Yeah.
for me, then I'm like, okay, it's gonna lead me, where I actually want to go, you know?
Yeah. And I
So
think everything has good in it. And in the moments
yeah,
where it feels heavy and bad, like, of course, acknowledge like the heaviness and the pain or whatever that comes with it. Of course, like acknowledge it, but hold that silver lining of this is also good. There's good in this for me, even though I can't see it right now. It's like hold
exactly.
that peace because then that's the frequency that you're holding on to through this situation. Sometimes people end up like bypassing or gaslighting themselves, let's just say, because they're like, well, no, this is fine. Everything's fine. It's going to be fine. I'm going to look at the silver lining, but they're not feeling the pain or the hurt or the sadness that comes with it. So it's like, no, feel all of that,
Yeah.
acknowledge all of that, thoroughly
Hmm.
express it, and just know that through that, this is for my highest good. And
Hmm.
that's what I'm going to keep my eye on. That's what I'm going to keep my frequency on. Because when you keep your frequency on that, as you are in this experience, the experience isn't, this is so shitty. The main vibration of that experience is, God is delivering something amazing to me through this.
Hmm.
And so, therefore, that's what you're getting from it.
Exactly.
And
And,
it's,
it is important to feel what you feel, like, because
mhm,
again, emotions it's just energy passing through. It needs to pass through. That's part of like how you regulate what's coming in, and how you understand as well, like what something is leading you towards. And so I do think it's important to say that it's not about like something bad happens and you're like, oh my God, how can I see this positive? How can I see this positive? Like it's not about that, but it's kind of
yeah,
like your general focus. And I feel like this is kind of like an art that we learn more
yeah,
because, we're constantly bombarded with negative news, negative things happening, whatever. And so that has almost become like our default, to
yeah.
look at things negatively because of everything around us. But it's kind of like an art to, let yourself process and feel, but then sort of say, okay, what is this challenge actually moving me into? You know? And I think that's like really important for us to, yeah, there's a balance with that.
It's really about having more faith in the good possible outcomes than more
Right.
faith in the bad possible outcomes. And
Hmm.
when we are, let's call it like pre-awakening, we're really we're waiting for the other shoe to drop where it's
Right.
worst possible outcome, and we
Yeah.
really believe in that. And as you start to awaken and you realize a lot of the things that we've been taught to believe in, it's literally to keep us stuck and small, then you start to realize that, oh, I've been intentionally made to think and believe in the bad things, but in reality, I get to also focus on best case scenario because what I believe in is what's created. So let me also, and it's a practice because your body is trained for survival. And survival is like, okay, I'm going to think of worst case scenario and I'm going to find
Yeah.
survival in that. And
True.
so to switch this nervous system to find safety in best case scenario, it takes practice. It takes a
Hmm.
lot of practice and repetition. But to then be like, you know what, I'm going to have more faith in best case scenario than worst case scenario because I also know if anything goes down the path of worst case scenario, it's actually not worst case scenario. It's the path
No.
God knows I need to go down to get
Hmm.
to my best case scenario.
Hmm.
So either way, we
Absolutely.
win.
Ex exactly. Absolutely. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I'm even thinking about like, the story I've shared this story before on the podcast last year when I got a tax bill that I wasn't really expecting, and it was like $10,000, probably a little bit more. And I was like, and I could have, I mean, in the moment, I was like, oh my God, I wasn't expecting this. And it did. It sort of like rocked me. And I was kind of like, oh my God, like, you know, going through my head and feeling those like feelings coming up. But then I was like, okay, this is teaching me something. There's something in this. I need to focus on that. And I
Hmm.
look back now on that was 6, 7, 8 months ago. I look back now and I say, oh my God, from that moment, the financial literacy that
Yeah.
I stepped into was on another level.
Yeah.
And if I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't be at this solid foundation that I'm at now, you
Yeah.
know? So I think to myself, it's like those things, that's what I mean, or that's what we mean when we say there's always these opportunities in challenges, like because they push you into something, a
Hmm.
lot of the time.
That's what they're always here to push you
Yeah,
into. They're stepping stones.
stepping
And
stones.
I think that's the difference where we talk about like a victor versus a victim. It's the
Mm,
victor allows themselves to acknowledge what's coming up for them and see that silver lining through it so that they
hmm.
can receive what that silver lining is. The victim sees what's coming up for them and then just gets stuck in that.
Yeah,
I think
for
I
sure.
shared with you the other day when I was talking to someone and they were kind of just talking about their life and this is happening and that's happening and everything's going up in flames. And I'm like, just listening, I'm like, yeah, yeah. And they're like, and the worst part is there's no solution.
Mm,
And this is when you can see someone who's deeply in a victim mindset. Because I responded with, I know sometimes life is so difficult that we feel like there's no solution and it just feels like it's one thing after another and it feels very difficult. And I like definitely see that and I feel that for you. And also, don't keep repeating to yourself there's no solution because that just puts you into this like hopeless kind of energy and it blocks any type of solution from being able to find you because you're just connected to there's no solution.
and
And then this person got mad at me for saying that.
mm,
And
mm,
this is where you could see someone who's stuck in victim mindset
mhm,
and someone who is in that balance in the victor where I'm going to feel this and I'm going to hold to that silver lining. I have no
mhm,
idea what the solution is and it looks like there's no solution at all. And I will hold to that silver lining that there is a solution somewhere somehow and I'm open to receiving it.
exactly. And it's kind of like that sort of victim mentality. It's almost like they have tunnel vision on the problem. So
Yep.
again, if you've got tunnel vision, you can't see any of these things that are trying to come in as a solution,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah, and I
It's
remember when
also
sorry.
I was gonna say it's also a very like logical mindset. People
Yeah.
that go straight with logic, they don't leave room for faith. They don't leave room for
Mm,
the possibilities because their logic can't fathom it. And
mm,
so when you go straight with logic and only with logic, you are going to put yourself in a place of like a victim mentality
mhm,
because you're trying to figure everything out and you can't.
mm,
We can't. Like we can't figure everything out. And that's where we surrender. That's where we have faith. And that's where we have faith that something that I don't know, logically, I don't know, a solution, an answer, a path forward will reveal itself to me. But when people go with only logic because they find that to be their safety, you will see in logic, you're living your life in a victim mindset.
right. And it's kind of like I think also the logic, it's I want things to be certain, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, absolutely nothing is certain. Even if something is ironclad and it's like this is exactly where it's going, this is what this is about, like
Mm-hmm.
life can show us differently, you know? And so
Absolutely.
literally nothing is certain, you
Mm-hmm.
know? It's kind of like, people who maybe want to stay in a job that they don't like. And it's kind of like, it's because that job brings like a level of certainty, a level
Yeah.
of safety. At the end of the day, that job can turn around to you tomorrow and be like, we've replaced you.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of like there's no certainty in that, but
Yeah.
I think it's almost safer to have faith.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. When your certainty is on God and your
Yeah.
certainty is
Mhm.
with God, then you can actually always walk with certainty in
Right.
life.
Exactly. Exactly.
Like, how do people
Okay.
not live with God? I don't know.
I don't
I
know.
don't
Yeah,
know.
I know. Let's talk about dating because we
Yes,
we we
let's.
started we started this episode off like we've got the tea, like get your cup of tea, like everyone's tea's gone cold. It's like let's
Well, we talked about other important
Yeah,
things, so
of
I'm sure
course.
there's a
Well,
lot of
this
good lessons there. But let's get to the fun part and
yeah,
the dating part.
because this leads to dating. We're setting the foundation
Yes,
of
yes.
okay, like when we're
All
going
of
in,
these things are connected to each other. They
of course.
literally
Hmm.
are all connected to each other because, for example, when we have faith and we understand the journey, like you and I are not freaked out that we are in our mid 30s and single
Mm.
and oh my God, we're
Yeah.
never going to get married. So let me just go settle because you're 35, I'm 36.
Mm.
It's late. Like, no, we walk with God. We have
Yeah.
faith in our journey. We have faith.
Mhm.
Like, I have no idea who the guy is, when or how I'm going to meet him. Zero idea.
Mhm.
But I have full faith and certainty that that man that I feel, it's like there's a feeling you could feel who that person is.
Mhm.
He exists, of course he exists. And in
Mhm.
the right time as I grow and I evolve and I turn into the woman that I want to be in that relationship, he's going to just walk into my life. I don't know
Mhm.
when. I don't need to know when or how. It's not my business.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But I think something that is important to talk about because I think there's a lot of talk of this in the spiritual world and kind of in the negative sense, but
What?
let's talk about dating apps. So
Dating apps are an interesting experience.
it's such an interesting experience, but I really reframed dating apps. One of my friends said to me, she said, like you should see you creating a dating app almost as like this ritual that you're having with the universe. It's your way of letting the universe know I'm available for a relationship, I'm available for connection. And so you creating that, you're, putting that out into the world. And I think a dating app, it can actually, or at least this is my experience with it recently, is it can be a space where you can really use it as a space to have that conversation with the universe and to sort of set your standards, set boundaries that you need to set because like it can be a little bit easier to set boundaries and standards with someone you don't know and someone you haven't met yet, and so I think that is a beautiful way of interacting and engaging with dating apps.
You know, you said something to me that stood out so much when we were talking about dating apps and our experience on there. Because you said it's such a way to interact with the universe and really set your standards. Because we tend to on dating apps be like, oh, well, okay, maybe like okay, fine, let's match with this guy and let's see. And I was like, yeah, I was like, I tend to match with a lot of guys on that where it's like, I'm like, I don't know, but let's see. Like, and you're like, no, don't do that because this is like a part of the interaction you're having with the universe, with having faith in that standard that you have. So if someone literally, it shows you something on there that they don't match the standard, don't accept it. Say
Mm-hmm.
no. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, that is actually such a beautiful way to interact with these things because one of my like non-negotiables is I don't want a person that was vaccinated. I don't. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
want it. I don't like it. And so there are some profiles that will pop up that like they are. And sometimes I'm like, well, we can always have them do a detox protocol or we can always have, but then to me it's like
Yeah.
Seema, but claim your standard because
Mm-hmm.
I have to remember. because I use this in other aspects of my life, so I need to incorporate it into the dating aspect of my life. The standard that you have is not something that you created for yourself. It's a standard that God is reflecting to you
Yeah.
of what is there for you.
Hmm.
And so God is showing me the person for you, because if it felt okay for me to be like, okay, if he's vaccinated, it's okay as long as he's open to doing, let's say, detox protocols to like detox that spike protein out of his body. Like, if that were okay with me, then it would feel like, yes, that's okay.
Hmm.
Then that would be the standard. They'd have to be open to a detox protocol. But it's like, no, I could feel within my vessel the standard is they were not. And it's like, I have to remember that's not me just creating that. That is God speaking through me that the one I have for you is not vaccinated.
Hmm.
And
And
so
I think
that's
if,
the importance of acknowledging your standards.
yeah, and I think if someone has on their dating profile that they're vaccinated, they're kind of like happy about it, you know? Like,
Right.
so, but yeah, and I think it's again, it comes back to this idea of the algorithm, you know, because what I've noticed and observed as I've been on, you know, these apps for the last couple of weeks, I've noticed that it responds to me, you know, so sort of the the people that I'm more like interacting with, so it might be like, you know, their political beliefs or something like that, I will see more of
Yeah.
those that align with what I'm saying, like I'm interested in, right? And, you know, I had this, I think this is like kind of a good story for this experience of setting your standards on dating apps. So I matched with this guy, and the first thing he said to me, and I was like, I was kind of intrigued by it because I was like, oh, okay, like he's talking about values, and I like values. He said, oh, like you're Christian and conservative, like amazing or something. And so we started chatting a little bit, and he was like, you know, straight off the bat, like, how many kids do you want? And again, I treat this as a conversation with the universe, not like some guy. And so I was like, huh, that's like a good question. And I was like, let me truthfully answer this question. What is my answer to this? And I said to him, I said, you know, honestly, like I would have a lot of kids if I'm blessed enough to have a lot of kids. I said like 3 or 4 I think is beautiful, but like, you know, if there was more, why not, you know? And I was like, oh, that like kind of surprised me. But anyway, we're like having this conversation, and straight away he's like, let's meet up. And I don't like this. This is something I don't like because I don't know you yet. Like I haven't connected with you much yet, so I don't know if I want to spend my time with you or like my energy with you. I don't know that yet. And so I like messaged him back and I was like, that sounds lovely, but maybe we can get to know each other a little bit more first before I agree to go on a date, like because that's just my standard sort of thing. And this guy was like, yeah, no worry. Like it took him like a day to message me back and he was like, yeah, no worries. Proceeded to interact with me for I guess like 4 or 5 days, but I was asking all the questions. He never asked me one question. And I was like, this is so interesting. Like, and I was just kind of experimenting with this. And I think and then it got to one day and he was like, "Oh, shall we meet tonight?" And I was like, "Tonight is in like 2 hours. Like, are you kidding?" And so I said, "I'm not a last minute kind of girl." And then he said something weird like, "Oh, well, I'm like a 1 minute kind of guy, if you know what I mean," or something like this. I
What
don't
does
know. It
this
was like,
mean?
I don't know. Like it didn't even like match the conversation we were having. I'm a last minute kind of guy, if you know what I mean. And I was like, you know, I don't know what you mean, and I don't think this is gonna work. So like, good luck, like, you know, for what you're looking for. And then like unmatched him. And then I was talking to another guy, and so and he asked me, I loved the way he asked me. He said, "You know, I would really love to take you out on a date." Like he said it in that way. And this is I
Mhm.
love that. And so I was like, I love the way he's asked me, but I haven't been speaking to him that long yet. So, no, I'm gonna set my standard and say I like to, get to know someone a little bit more first.
Yeah.
This guy was the opposite. So then he made this conscious effort to ask me questions about my values, to really, just like ask me a lot of questions, get to know me, and be consistent with it.
Hmm.
And so, and then there was like a point where I was like, is he gonna ask me out on a date? Or like, like, is he gonna ask me again? Or if I like, sort of put him off a little bit. But then, like, he said to me, you know what? Honestly, like, I really want to see you. Like, can I organize a date? And he's like, this is where we're going. This is what we're doing. All of this. And so what I'm
I love
saying is,
that.
I love that. And so I'm using this story to say, you see, like, I could have been in scarcity of like, oh, like I connected with this guy and like he's good looking and he's this and I should just go on a date with him. But I'm like, no, like he didn't meet my standard and he made me feel bad for sort of setting my standard.
Hmm.
So I was like, no, I'm not going to go on a date with you. And then another one came. Do you see what I mean? It's kind of like,
Standards are, it's so important to hold your standard. And I know in my experience, I don't hold my standard in this. I think I hold my standard in every other aspect of my life. When it comes to relationships, I bend my standard a lot, which is something I'm recognizing and I'm
mhm,
realizing. And it's so important because when you bend your standard, and I always say this to people, when you hold a standard and you have a vision of something, God is like, I'm going to give you that or more, but don't go
mhm,
even an inch below it. And I know that. And so, someone that I recently went on a few dates with was someone that immediately was a couple inches below that standard. And
no, I need to interrupt you here because you were constantly then sending me like a message and being like, "Oh, like he just like he did this." Like every single time you went on a date, it was like he was going down a notch each time.
each, until the last time he dropped like 20 notches, and I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
But this is what, okay, but you see, this is what happens. You guys take my experience as like a lesson. This is what happens when you settle on your standards. And like I knew in my body, it was like I don't know, but like let's give it it was one of those things. If you're having that conversation within yourself, like listen to it. But there was a part of me that was still like, no, I want to. So I was like, Seema, go. If you feel called to have an experience, then that's the exact experience that like you need to have. And so I gave myself permission to go and to explore. And I think the experience was really there to reflect to me how I was not holding my standards.
For
So
sure.
that's such a big thing. And I learned a lot through it. But this person, and it's like the little things you see then in a person that can really reflect why initially like your intuition was like, I don't think this person is it. And after like we went on like a couple of dates, there was, okay, this is the tea part. There was one night where I was like, it was raining a lot in LA, so I'm like, you know what, instead of us going out, like why don't you just come over? Like it's raining, there's not much we can do, we'll just have to like go to dinner and be done, so we'll just order in. Okay. And ladies, pay attention to the little things about a man because the little things reflect the most to you. When
Hmm.
he came over that night, he knew because we had spoken about like I don't wear shoes in my house. Like I do like a very traditional Middle Eastern thing, which I know a lot of cultures do as well. Like you step in and you take your shoes off. And so he steps in, he takes his shoes off, but he doesn't politely take them off and put them to the side. They're like kicked off. One is flipped one way, one is flung the other way. And immediately it was like red flag number one. And then I look at his socks. Guys probably don't listen to our podcast, but gentlemen, if you guys are listening to this, ladies, pay attention to the smallest details. Please wear clean socks. He had a hole in his sock. He literally had a hole in his sock, and I'm just like, okay. And then his cell phone, half of the screen was cracked. His watch didn't work. It was on his wrist for shits and giggles. And I literally sat there and I was looking at all of these things and I was like, I cannot. Like, what am I doing? And it's like from day one, there was little things that was a little bit below my standard. And this is the thing that I always say, when you stick to your standard, God will give you that or more. If you go even the tiniest bit below your standard, God will give you that or less. God can't go more, it goes less. And like I was just sitting there and I was looking at all these things and I was like, "Oh my God, this is the less." And there's a lot of people that are like, "Oh, well, guys just don't pay attention to that." So like, women come in and clean them up. And I'm like, it's not about a woman coming in and cleaning them up and just buying them fresh, nice socks. It's a reflection of how he feels about himself. If you're putting on socks that are no longer white and clearly once upon a time they were white and there's a hole in them, that's a reflection of you and how you feel about yourself. Because really, like, how you do one thing is how you do everything. Your sock has a hole in it. Your cell phone is cracked. The clock on your watch isn't working. Like, this is all very telling and signs about how a person is. And it was just such a good lesson for me that I was like, oh no, Seema, this is what happens when you budge on your standard, even like a millimeter.
Right.
And
And
I was like, yeah.
exactly. And I want to speak to that about how we can budge on our standard, especially as women in our 30s. The thing is, women being in our 30s and being single, the thing that we do have on our side is we know what we want. We know what's important to us. We know who we are. We know what we're looking for. This is great. This is a great recipe. The only thing is the conditioning or the little voice in our head that is saying, your biological clock is ticking, or you're single too long, or, whatever the noise is around you or within you that is telling you you need to meet someone fast. And so, what happens is if we've met someone and there's somewhat of a connection, like you had with this guy, this is where we can gaslight ourselves and really suppress our standards and create new ones. And it's from this space of almost like scarcity of I need to have a relationship now, and it's the same on when we're on the apps and we're looking at different connections. We talk ourselves into being attracted or, enticed by someone's profile because it's like, oh, like he's good enough.
Yeah.
Is there going to be more that are going to be good enough? Again, it's like see it like an algorithm, you know?
I think that is very true, especially speaking into women who are in their 30s or late 30s or even early 40s. Like, there is such a pressure. Oh, why aren't you married yet? Oh, if you stay single for too long, you're going to get so used to being single and then you'll never marry anyone. And this is actually one thing that Spirit has given me this message multiple times with different clients. It's if you are single at this age and you've had relationships, of course, these relationships could have led to marriage, but for one reason or another, like you just couldn't do it at the end of the day. This is actually a part of your soul contract, not to be single, but not to repeat patterns that your lineage had when it comes to marriage, because it's actually so much more easy for us to be married with a person that we have settled with than to hold this standard and kind of be in this discomfort a little bit of being single for a while and then finding that partner that is just, it's a different frequency. It creates a new timeline in our lineage. And there are a lot of women and men here right now in their soul contracts where it's like, no, you're not going to have a marriage that repeats those patterns. And everyone's timelines are different. So for some people, they can repeat those patterns and it is in their contract to go through a divorce. So everyone's is different and it's really important to just like feel into your own experience. But I know this is true for both of us, and I'm sure it's true for a lot of other women listening to this. We have been in relationships that could have led to marriage, that we could have even chose to get engaged to them and stick around a little bit longer, bend our standards a little bit more, and just get married. And even if we thought we wanted to, something would happen that just like pulls this apart. It doesn't allow it to happen. And I've come to recognize that when we have those experiences, That is our soul literally yelling and reflecting to us. Your soul contract is to create a type of soul relationship here with someone that breaks generational patterns with marriages your family have had. And it doesn't mean this marriage is going to just be rainbows and butterflies all the time. Like, of course, relationships are here to teach us so many things. It's like the greatest tool for evolution and for growth. Absolutely. But it's different because majority, especially if we're just talking about women, majority of women in this world, our parents, our grandmothers, our great grandmothers, and so on and so forth, were taught to settle into marriages and not necessarily hold their standards. Because a lot of it comes from women didn't have rights unless they were married. Women didn't have value unless they were married. So it was very much pushed onto them. But we can only think of energetically the frequency that creates when you marry someone for the sake of getting married versus for the sake of true and intentional love.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we're actually here to break that pattern. So it does take a little bit longer because you have to go through these experiences. You have to go through the heartbreak. You have to go through the awakenings. It's not even a have to, you get to, so that you can become a different version because we have permission in this timeline to become a version of our feminine that our ancestors, even our own mothers, did not have permission to become.
For sure. And I think it's just like, yeah, it's so powerful to when you think about it in that way as
Yeah.
well. Um, and one thing that you said that, sometimes women are scared to be alone because it's this feeling of I'm gonna get used to it. And I think this is a really important topic to talk about actually, because yeah, we can sort of get used to being on our own. Like, me hyper independent, like, carrying shit up the stairs, like, But I had an experience over Christmas, like when my parents came here, that literally shifted this for me because I think last year, I wasn't saying like I want a relationship and I want to meet someone, I'm ready to meet someone. Like I didn't feel like I was on some level. I was very like unattached to it. And, on reflection now, I know, I'd only kind of come back to Stockholm and I was building up my life. I was, really, setting the foundations in my business. Like there was so many other things that I was focused on. And I remember because I love my own time. I love my own time. And it's actually something that is important to me in a relationship that, we're a team, but we're individuals as well. Like we have, he has his things that he's passionate about and he wants to, take time with, and I have mine. And it's like, we can come together, but also like we can have our own lives as
Mm-hmm.
well to an extent, and so something I thought was, oh man, like maybe I don't have space for someone. Maybe I'm so used to being by myself. I like my own time so much that maybe I'm just like closed off, And this is something I wasn't like worried about it, but it was something that crossed my mind a couple of times. And then my parents came. And when they came, it was like they opened something up within me because they came and they stayed with me and we were together 24/7 for like 5 days. And before that would have been like, oh my God, like that's like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed every minute of it. And when
Yeah.
they left, I was like, oh my God, actually, I do have space for someone because I enjoyed being around them all the time so much.
It's a you have space for the right person. You have
Ah,
space for the right people. And I think when we're younger, we're not as discerning. So we just let
uh-huh.
whoever into our lives, whether it's friendships or romantic relationships. And as we get older and we're setting these standards and we're getting to know ourselves, one thing I've noticed for myself, my body will literally speak to me. If someone, even if it's a friend, that it's like a nope, I don't want to be with this person, I'll feel like I don't want to go out. I don't have space. Like, no. And it becomes very easy to be like, am I just so used to being alone that I like being alone?
Mhm.
But then the people that I do like being around, the right people, I always have space and time for them.
Right.
Always.
So true.
And it's a
I
good
love that.
reminder we have the space for the right partner. We have more than enough space for the right partner.
Hmm.
It's like
Exactly.
space is created within us when the man is the right man. We have so
Exactly.
much time, so much space, so much energy for that person.
Exactly. And I want to say something that I said to you the other day about this listening to your gut straight away because
Yes.
you're like sacral authority like generator. It's like like in the moment when you're talking to someone for the first, like if that
Yeah.
is like a connection or it's not. And for me, like I'm emotional, like I take a little bit more time, which is why I say I like to connect a little bit more first
Yeah.
before, like I need to feel into it and see, actually, do I want to like invest my time? I need some time, And so I think things like that, like understanding how that shows up for you as well is like important too, you know,
So important
tuning in
because
to listen.
when you reflected to me, we were talking about something and you're like, "Well, Seema, you are sacral authority." This is I think we were talking about that last guy that I was
Yeah.
dating for a little while, and then after like it ended, you were like, "Well, Seema, you are sacral authority." And you literally your exact words were like, "Well, you were just gaslighting yourself in this whole experience because you knew what you knew, but you literally were then ignoring what you knew that you knew." And I was like,
Exactly.
wait, that is so right. I do operate that way. And that
Hmm.
is where my power is. Like, I just know, and I've always been like this. Things in life, I just know it. And I don't need the validation or the clarity. Like, I just know
You
it.
do. You do.
And again, I live so many aspects of my life with that knowing and with that discernment.
Mm.
And for some reason, when it comes to love and relationships, is the area that like I struggle on. But I know that it's also like a lineage thing and what the women in my lineage have always taught me when it comes to marriage and love. And it's like, oh, well, it's okay. And so it literally has you second guess your intuition with these things, which is okay. I think it's the
Yeah.
perfect experience for me, which then also has me doubling down on this sacral authority that I have that it's like, no, you trust yourself. Don't gaslight your own intuition.
Mhm. Exactly. And it's kind of like, I think sometimes we do that gaslighting because like we have a vision and we want to get to it. Like, let's be honest.
Mhm.
Like, we want that to materialize in our life. And so we kind of sort of, yeah, like we can kind of gaslight ourselves because we want to arrive there faster. And we
But
think
then
by
but
doing
then you're
that,
arriving at like an illusion of it. It's like a fake
exactly.
version of it. And
So
that in the long run, it's not gonna
exactly.
work out.
And it's kind of like I think about it and I think actually when we're not listening, we're actually creating roadblocks and you think maybe you're speeding yourself up, you're actually slowing yourself down.
Exactly. Oh
Yeah,
my, like 100%. You're actually slowing yourself down because you're
100%.
taking a longer detour to get there versus if you had just listened to yourself. So
Yeah.
this experience with this last guy was a good one in so many different ways because I also like I share my dating experiences with my mom. And so when this one like didn't really go well, I told her I was like, "Oh mom, I was talking to this guy, but then I didn't like it." And she's like, "Why?" So then I was explaining some of these things to her and different things that I was like picking up on him that I'm just like, he's a lovely guy, but like we're just not aligned for each other. And then I was telling her the shoe situation.
Mhm.
And because when he walked in and he kicked off his shoes like that, like Abby, one of them flung. I'm like, "Are you 15?" Like, okay. And so when he kicked off his shoes like that and then like just walked into the house, like I took off my shoes and I kind of just looked at his shoes and how he took them off. And he recognized that I looked at them. I didn't say anything to him. I just kind of looked at the shoes. I took off my shoes and I walked in. He recognized. So then he came back kind of like, "Oh shit, let me fix them." He grabbed his shoes, put them next to each other and placed them down. So I said that to my mom and I was like, it's just that's just one of the things, one of the many things that I saw that it was just like, this isn't going to work. And then my mom goes to me, she's like, "Well, you can look at it that way, Seema, or you can look at it as he's the type of man that will listen to his wife because he saw that you looked at it, so he came back to fix them."
Mhm.
And I'm like, I could see that, but that would be me being his mother and
Just about to
teaching
say.
him.
Mm,
Yeah, I don't want a man that I need to teach him basic standards of life. Like you have your standards and that's fine, and mine are different, but that would be me being his mother and not his partner or his wife.
mm,
Of course, I want a partner in my life that has the ability to listen to me and vice versa,
mm-hmm.
but I'm not his teacher of this is
No.
how you take your shoes off, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And I think that's what tends to happen. And I've seen this actually happen a lot with women where they're like, oh, but you know what? He listened to what I said and he basically does as he's told. And I'm like, did you marry a puppy or a man? You know, and then they get into these relationships and they're like, he's not leading the way that I want him to lead. And I'm like, well, because you didn't marry a leader, you married someone that you can mold and control. So he's actually looking for your leadership.
Oof. Yeah. And this is the
That's why
thing.
these little
Yeah.
things are so telling. Like, pay attention to these little things.
Mm-hmm. And it's like the more that we as women hold our standards, because I think all women want to be led in a relationship, the more
Hmm.
that we hold these standards, the more men that will stand up and be leaders and be masculine and be the man that they're here to be as well. You know what I mean?
You're absolutely right. That's something that we spoke about. And I said to you, I was like, I was like, men are the way they are, not because of men, but because of women. Like, it's our fault. It's our fault that men have become lazy because men are the hunters. They
Yeah.
will go hunt and they will go do what they have to do in order to get that thing, that prize. And
Hmm.
so, if the woman is the prize and this man is coming up presenting himself with bare minimum, holes in his socks, broken phone, or let's just say other standards that we see. Let's do 50-50. I can't afford to pay for everything. And a woman is saying yes. You're saying yes to that. He just won. So he's like, this is all the hunting I have to do because I got it. But when a woman raises her standard and does not give him access to your body, to your soul, and you say, no, 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 you have to raise your standard to become like this in order to have access to a woman, men will level up. But when you open your legs to a man that's giving you bare minimum, when you say yes and you give your hand in marriage to a man that can't even afford to cover the expenses for your life together, and then you wonder why that man is quote unquote then lazy in your relationship, well, you just told him that who he is at this level is enough because you gave him the reward. He hunted and he gathered and he's like, okay, well, that's all the skill I need.
Mic drop.
So women, this is why, like, it's not just for us. Our standards are not just for us. Our standards are for men as well. And I think there's a difference between like having ridiculous standards and it's like, come on, like just really get connected. But like those standards that we have, like asking for a man to be financially stable to enter a relationship is the bare minimum.
Hmm.
Asking for a man to be able to provide for you and your children and you not necessarily having to work, that's actually the bare minimum. That is a man's role. If I am to carry the child and raise the children and be the mother, then shouldn't you also like accomplish your role? And you know, and it's like if we want men to stop being lazy, then we need to stop being lazy with our standards. It's that
Absolutely.
simple.
It is. Okay. I love that. I think that's a good note for us to end this episode on. But this has actually been so fun to just like talk about, yeah, where we're at and the tools that help us as we are moving along our own way as well. And so
Exactly.
we would love to hear your guys' feedback on what resonated with you in this episode. Was there an aha moment in this episode? Let's
Yeah.
just all keep our standards high, you know?
Let's let's keep our standards to where God has told us to hold them.
Oof, yes.
Let's honor God and hold our standards to that space.
I am gonna keep that here when I go on my date, and I will report back next week.
We are so excited to hear about it.
I'm excited. I'm excited. Like this is actually a date I'm looking forward to,
Hmm.
because he's been very intentional about it. So let's see how
We
that
love it.
translates into reality.
We love it.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, we will see you guys next week with updated information and new fun things to talk about.
Bye.